we take our brand fresh and drum head and we make sure that it's sitting on even. We want to make sure it's not slanted or anything. We want to what's called seat the head properly. Put our drum hoop on, and what we're going to do is we're going to repeat the process that we did for the bottom head, but we're going to do it on top. We are now starting with the batter head side of the snare drum, and we're repeating the same process that we went through on the bottom head. We're getting every lug down to what's called finger tight tension. You just heard me mention that, and we're doing it for the top snare drum head. When you do this with the top snare and you put every lug to finger tight tension, what you get is you get the drums, what it's called its fundamental pitch. This is where it starts to make a note and starts to make what sounds like a drum. It won't be pretty, but you're getting a note out of it. It's just a case of making the snare drum a little tighter. Same process, we're going to go around a half turn on each lug. Now, I have 2 tuning keys, which means I can do this a little quicker, but you don't need 2 tuning keys, you can do it with 1. So we've gone around, we've taken each lug up a half turn. And again, we've got another half turn on each lug. And the reason we do that is because again, we don't want to break the snare drum head, and we don't want to put the snare drum head under a massive amount of tension and stress all at one time. Each lug is up about a half turn. Okay, so let's get our snare drum wire. Now what I'm doing with the snare drum wire here is really important. You'll have a nice snare drum, it's all tuned up, and something about it sounds a little off and you can't really figure out what it is. And it's because this snare drum wire is far too tight. If this snare drum wire is too tight, what it does is it chokes the snare drum. It's almost like you've got your hand around the neck of the snare drum and you're completely choking it, and it couldn't shout, it couldn't scream if it wanted to. So you need to make sure the snare drum wire is too tight. And in the same way, it can't be too loose. So I'm going to get it to where I think it's right, and that's to whenever I turn this little snare strainer on, you hear a little clipping sound, but it doesn't happen right at the bottom. It happens close to the top, and that's how we know that our snare drum isn't choked. When you're tuning a snare drum, it's all personal preference. Some people like it to be really low and really deep, but my personal sound is I like it a little higher. Because it's a snare drum, we can actually put a little more tension. So I'm going to go up another half turn, and I'm not being overly precise. I'm not measuring every turn, we're doing everything in halves. So I think the snare drum is probably going to sound pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it over to the drum kit, and we're going to make little small adjustments over on the kit.